Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. This is Tio and the Arcane Bear. We are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin's price, but what I wanted to do was actually start by talking about the Federal Reserve and taking a look at some of the world's biggest companies. So on the screen right now, what we have is a chart number 6, it says. This is from Bloomberg, actually. And it says, was QE a catalyst for a 12-year tech boom? Now, on this show, I have a probably uncountable number of times talked about the relationship between the M2 supply and the S&P 500. And right about here, I think, is where the image is the clearest. And what it appears to be is that the S&P 500 has pretty much grown, we'll say, in lockstep with quantitative easing. And as a matter of fact, there's a pretty profound amount of evidence to say the only reason many markets go up is because they print money. So where does that leave us as investors? How do we rely on the future of a company that's supposed to be generating value for the economy? And what does that look like? And what's really interesting is if you start to dive deeper into this is the realization that the majority of all markets value, or at least current price, let's go with price because price and value are two different things. The price of most things that you see today have grown so much because of that inflationary process of monetary printing. Every bank around the world does basically the same thing, whether it's the ECB, European central banks, the Federal Reserve, or the Canadian central banks. They are all doing the same thing. They are basically robbing and stealing from you. Well, you weren't paying attention. Oh, it's a 2% inflation every year, which roughly says every year we're going to steal 2% of your purchasing power. And one of the difficult things is over the course of 50 years, that's about approximately 100% of your purchasing power that's been taken away. So the relevance and the importance of understanding these central bank manipulators, we'll call them, is understanding the need to some degree or another for inflation. Now, I am going to sound like a hypocrite because I love Bitcoin and it is not inflationary. I like Bitcoin as an asset because it is a non-inflationary asset. In fact, it's probably closer to deflationary because people keep losing Bitcoin. But what's interesting here is that we need something better than the central bank controlling inflation. Now, I think one of the arguments that Musk makes that's interesting is the relevance of Doge as a potential currency. At least it has an inflationary supply that we can rely on, whereas the Federal Reserve will just randomly go and print to suit its kind of own benefit. So I wanted to take a look at a few different charts here today too. So this is Bitcoin on the log chart. We've been getting these longer and extended cycles. Back from 2011 to the breakthrough of each of these kind of growth curves was adding around 400 days. So here we go. We are 400 days. We are 800 days. We are 1200 days. And now here we are around 1600 days. This drawn out would be around 1600 days. I do suspect that we go higher for longer here by a couple hundred days probably. And that this is effectively the bottom of the market. So there's a bunch of ways we've been looking at this bottom of the market potential. Let's actually go with the RSI here instead of the money supply. Okay, so on the top chart, and actually let's go with log here so we can get a bit more data, and we'll use BLX at the bottom. This will make it a little bit, give us quite a bit more room on data. Okay, so effectively, the best times to accumulate Bitcoin are actually pretty simple. They're in times of potent fear. Every time you see the RSI up at the top here in pink down below 30, that's pretty much been the best place to buy. So you could pretty much ignore all reality of whatever price is saying and say, hey, every time we're below 30, just buy Bitcoin, even if you end up buying higher. Now, the strategy that you can use to overcome most conflicts of investing is just to buy consistently and focus on investing almost like it's a bill that you have to pay. Like every year you're investing in your internet bill or your phone bill. Investing is similar. Now, how much extra liquid revenue capital you have is clearly going to define how expensive your bill might be. But what I think is important again here to understand is that we want as much confidence in our strategy as possible. So this is high time for accumulating Bitcoin. I don't think we can go much lower. Again, there is reason to think that we could slip down to 19,000 to dip down and then kind of probably very quickly turn around. But why worry? Why convolute your life with all of these dramatic, oh my God, it's 6 a.m. and Bitcoin's down at 28,000 or 22,000. If you've got an area in mind and a target, set a buy order and walk away. And do that every month. It's going to make your job and your journey to millions of dollars in wealth much, much easier. So back to this one. So again, I suspect that we're having a lengthening range. We've gone over this a few times. Probably that puts us back out into May 2023. And I think that this one is going to be fundamentally different. I think that the market here basically chugs along and continues to go bullish for quite a bit longer than most people would suspect. Because what we're going through right now is going to be heavy. So I'm going to go back to the energy charts actually for a minute. So one of the things we've been talking about frequently is the price of energy and food. Well, first off, I actually saw a really funny tweet the other day. Someone's like, I filled up my gas tank 3 days ago. It's already worth 6% more. It's my best investment of the week. And this is one of the difficult things. For instance, people like myself here, I wouldn't really notice the difference, but from the baseline of 2020 to where we are today in energy costs, we're at around 400% higher. If we just take the average mean, we're still around 156% higher. If you go and again, you look at grains from early 2020 to where we are today, 120%. Now, this is devastating for the local impoverished people, which they are the majority. I cannot urge this enough. The people who are the majority on this planet are poor, that effectively make less than, I think it's $10 a day or something, and that live off that. And these are the people that will be impacted the most. And anytime we see civil disturbance, it's almost entirely because of the disconnect between the cost of everyday living and those majority of people. Now, I think that there's more than enough food on the planet to feed everybody. I think what we're doing wrong is this is probably a manufactured crisis. This is some BS nonsense that doesn't need to be there. We don't need to be going into a food crisis, but we are, because I guess the powers or these megalomaniac people who think that they're doing good, paving the way to hell with good intentions, are driving nails in the coffin of the economy. And it's very dangerous. So the reason why Bitcoin's always been kind of the core of our thesis here is because this is a non-state backed asset. Now, property, for instance, is a state-backed asset. It's backed by effectively the social contract of the state that you live in. So if every year the social contract gets broken, whether it's through the loss of human freedoms and rights like we've seen in Canada, or where the banks will just lock you out of your money for giving a donation to protests and freedom, you get called a right-wing extremist and all these nonsensical names that are really, again, I guess probably show the amount of folly and negligence inside of the other party's conversation. So what I think is important to remember is that in the time of crisis, the asset that you can take with you and that is recognized globally is going to be so fucking valuable. You can't travel with that much US dollars, but you can travel with 24 words in your brain, and you can travel with all of your assets. This is a function and a utility of this sector that most people still don't understand because they live in a very privileged, very comfortable space. Whether you are a Ukrainian or a Russian, you're both getting fucked. You're both getting fucked by the same problem, which is that the overarching governance ends up pigeonholing you. You're like, oh, well, you were born in a certain longitude and latitude. We can't allow you to have a PayPal or a GoDaddy account anymore. Anyway, we as a society can step forward and provide the tools necessary for individuals, people, to provide themselves sovereignty of money or property, and identity is the way forward. And from very early on, this has been kind of the basis and the function of our Bitcoin thesis, is that when it really starts to matter, the price of Bitcoin is almost going to become irrelevant. And I don't think it's going to happen today, but there's going to be a point in the future where you can basically just not even buy it for whatever price is listed on the screen. And we had gone over this before by looking at the Sri Lankan rupee to USD. So I want to just tell this story because I think it's important to reiterate it. I also want to give a shout out to my friend. He was living in Sri Lanka, lived there for multiple years with his family, had 2 dogs, multiple businesses, multiple homes. And almost overnight, as you can see here, on around March 11th, basically, seems to be a cordial day of things happening, is when the pandemic was declared as well. Their currency dropped from 49 to 25 thousandths of a penny, basically. And what's important here, and what I want to highlight, is the fact that as this currency was dropping, this is what is tradable on the street. So, on the foreign currency exchange. So if you go to trade dollars for Sri Lankan rupees in the foreign currency exchange, this is the rate they're giving you. But anywhere on the street, it's half that. And if you have crypto, it's half plus another 30%. That is an extraordinary number to try to comprehend. That in the moment that you would want the asset that you can take with you to flee or to leave, however you want to look at it, the country that is falling apart on its social contract, there are very few assets that you can take with you. Bitcoin, crypto, is uniquely one of these technologies that you can take with you. And although most people's lives and sovereignty are not currently under threat today, if you look back in the history of our human species, it happens often enough to be at least a little concerned and understand the things that are at stake. So, Bitcoin, aside from its price value, which I think, again, is an extraordinarily awesome place to be accumulating right now, is the utility of any asset. Take a generator as an example. In the early summertime, you might be able to buy 5 or 6 generators. No one's really thinking about it, but all of a sudden you're in Texas and you bought like 8 generators. And the power goes out. Those generators are in fact worth way more than any of the money you would have paid for them, because survival is important. So utility and survival are very closely related, but we have been such a privileged group for the most part, not everybody, but a lot of people have been in a privileged space where the social contract has been holding relatively stable. But as we start to go down this road where energy costs are increasing, food, grain costs are increasing, the people who are at the bottom of that financial pyramid start to get angry. And they, as many times before, they aim that anger directly at those who have done well for themselves. Whether you had done something that wasn't corrupt, or whether you are a corrupt politician who scored points with a regulation agency and the military-industrial complex to push shit on people that no one would have ever normally wanted to take, you cannot get a jail-out-of-free card. And this is vitally important to understand. We are in a very chaotic and very important time for the human species, and sovereignty of identity and money are a solution that we all need. Anyways, so I want to kind of get off that rant, but this is, again, kind of the depth of the thesis. No matter what price Bitcoin is at, as the crisis starts to evolve and as people need utility in the assets that they carry, that utility is effectively what increases the value. And here, obviously, the scarcity as well. Digital scarcity is kind of a first-time thing, is in itself a wonderful preponderance of events that take place. So we're very bullish. I suspect, again, that we're going to get a run-up probably of another 400 days here. I stand by. Let's actually go back here to this. We'll take log off. I stand by the thesis that we are just finishing up the 3 peaks and a domed house. We had made comparisons of this to the S&P 500. Again, here on right now, this is the S&P 500. Notice what would appear to be a double top. Very bearish signal here. If I was trading this back in 2008, I would have been scared. But now that I know better about Wyckoff trading ranges and trying to understand the dynamics of market stability at large, understanding that we are entering probably one of the world's greatest crisis, a crisis asset is probably something you want your hands on. Now, I live at a farm here. I got like 3 acres of a few hundred fruit trees, 20,000 liters of freshwater storage, and a well. You could consider that a crisis asset, in my opinion. Now, again, the utility value is often worth more, or often worth the most when you need it, and it's not always clear when that's going to happen. So I think we're nearing the bottom of this 3 peaks and a domed house, which is usually around 0.28 here. As we saw with the S&P 500, after we finished and completed that that kind of touch back here to point 10. We went on a multi-year bull market run, different than all of the almost all of the previous runs here. I mean, you do have the S&P 500 from 1994 to 2000, which is basically a 6-year bull market cycle, and then also from where we were in 2008 to where we are today, effectively 4,600 days of bull market. That's what we were just looking at again, was this kind of 12-year tech boom. And understanding that fundamentally what's really driven this market isn't about new value being added to the economy, but the inflation of the monetary supply. Again, which brings us back to another core function of why our thesis here we think is so important, is that you wanted money that can't effectively be manipulated by any group of people, because that group of people has their own agenda and their own interest. Just like every other fucking human on the planet, they have their own agenda, their own family, and their own shit to worry about. So that's exactly what they do. They take care of their own. And if you're not in that circle, tough fucking luck. You're not part of the club. And we would actually make a pretty good argument that's almost nobody. So I stand by this thesis. I think we're gonna start basically what ends up being a multi-year bull market for Bitcoin that just doesn't stop. It may even start to make what this looks like here extend even further, where we maybe go through the next halving without really having what we would consider a bear market the way we've had it. We've already dropped. We're already averaging. What is this here? We're already around approximately 60%, and this quite frequently has been pretty close to bottoms. We've seen, obviously with 2017, we dropped down to $3,500, which was around a 70 to 80% retracement. But on average, 65% I think is the result of the bear market retracement. The other important part to note is that from the 2017 high to where we are, to the bottom of the market was only 300 days. Whereas if you take the top here, which we'll call it the top for now, of this market, we are already 420 days into the market cycle. There's not a whole lot more time or room to go down. I think that we are in standing here for, again, a multi-year bull market, very much different than the ones we've had in the past. We are, again, just basically grinding along the bottom here. This is the fear and greed index. We've been dragging along around basically 10 or maximum fear for quite some time. If we look at the last year, you can see both of the run-ups to 60, actually, both the run-ups to 60,000. Actually, here we go. Boom, there they are. Here's the first run up to 60,000. Here's the second run up. And again, just anytime you see the RSI below 30 or the fear and index, greed index around 10, it's pretty much the best time to be buying. So multiple factors right now across the board saying this is like, if you were looking for a place to accumulate, this is it. Even on here on the Mayer multiple, this is the reserve risk. We are well below our accumulation area. Here's the Mayer multiple. I'm going to let this one load up here as well. We are below that accumulation range. So again here, actually, let's zoom in specifically on this last two cycles from 2018 here. Pretty much every time that we dropped below the green line, which is the Mayer multiple at 0.8 to 0.8 on the, it's almost like a moving average effectively, or here, this green line. Anytime we drop below this green line, this was like the best place to be buying. Now, again, you could make the argument that, oh, Tio, look, if you were following a strategy, you're buying Bitcoin at $6,000 instead of that brief opportune moment of $3,000. What you need to remember again is that our standing here is that over time, consistency will always yield the best results. There's effectively nothing more capable than day over day building. So again, I suggest that people try to remove as much emotion. Don't be traders, don't use leverage, and just focus on accumulating assets. And if you do that, you're going to make a shit ton of money. Okay. These last two are ones we always like to go over. We think that they're frequently important to look at. Again, we can kind of start to see, so I'm going to explain this here. This is the percentage of supply last active over 1 year. So currently on this screen, we have the 2017 market cycle on the left. As you can see, as the price started to run up, that supply that had been held for over a year started to decrease as people started to take profits. And as we hit the bottom of that, and we started accumulating again around $6,000, this line of how long that Bitcoin had been sitting for starts to draw up. And this is where we are today. we are in fact in a very similar situation with what we're seeing today. We see that we've gone through a lot of the selling, and a lot of the people who had held Bitcoin over a year through to get to this process had sold, and then the people that had been holding for over a year started to increase dramatically around January 2020. And each time we start to flatten out is usually right around the time the bull market itself seems to start back up again. So I think we're right on the edge of this bull market ripping back to life here. Now it could be stopped again by this sentiment, which is, holy shit, maybe everything in every single fucking market around the world has basically been held up by monetary stimulus. And if that were the case, we are doomed, because these guys own like $3 trillion. What is this? Something trillions of dollars in unfunded liabilities and assets that could just go beep. So I'd be a little concerned, but again, ultimately, I think when those things push come to shove, the utility and value of something like Bitcoin is going to push its price into astronomical highs, regardless of how much money they are printing. It's a one-of-a-kind asset in its class today. Again, I'm a big fan of other things that fit in this strategy, but Bitcoin is our North Star and guiding light. So I suspect, again, back here, we are at the bottom of this three peaks and domed house thesis, and that we are going to continue onwards and upwards here for quite some time to come. What else did I want to go over today? Lastly here, just while we're actually on Glassnode still, get my face out of the way, I guess. This is the amount of supply on the Bitcoin exchanges. That's all time. Let's go back to this. There we go. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen right now, this big jet up was all of the Luna Foundation guards Bitcoin coming onto the market, being chewed up instantly, more people getting scared, and then getting chewed up instantly. So all of pretty much everything that Luna had has been chewed up by the market in less than 2 weeks. These are extraordinarily strong signs that says no matter what the market indicators are, there are large hands accumulating enormous amounts of Bitcoin every day. So that's really, really important to keep in mind. We have so many functioning factors that say, hey, if you don't own any Bitcoin yet, you're making mistakes, okay? If you are listening to this right now, and I'm actually sure, I'm pretty confident that most of you already own digital assets because the Bear family is pretty tight-knit. But if you don't, for some fucking reason, drop everything you're doing and go, no, it's not financial advice, but go buy some fucking, buy any kind of asset. I mean, you could buy a stonk for all I care, but start your investing journey if for some reason you have not already done that. I would start with Bitcoin. That's just my function. But as a non-financial advisor, I can't tell you anything to do other than, hey, I think that these are great ideas. I guess this will bring us to kind of our next topic, which is the rest of the sector and how we look at this, like venture capital. I could roll around there's a bunch of things. I was looking at Netflix's chart earlier. Wow, look at that. Just absolutely destroyed. Amazon doing not a whole lot better. This is one of the biggest down cycles the market has seen. Now, what I love about this is Amazon. First off, Amazon back in 2000 dropped like 90% basically here. Actually, let's look at this and see how irrelevant it became. Here's the 2001 stock market crash, effectively. And we lost around 90%. So Amazon went from $5 to like 40 cents in that period of time. And then look how irrelevant that became due to the, again, we can probably further increase the likelihood of this thesis being correct here by, again, taking a look at the monetary supply. It's not going to be identical here. Because we don't, it's not as noticeable. It was much more noticeable in this this chart here, which includes Amazon, Facebook, Google, the FANG stocks effectively. But I wanted to go back here to our venture capital conversation. Okay, which is let's start with Avalanche. So we've taken a big downward swing on Avalanche. Actually, there's some great shares that some of you guys had made in the private bear den, so I appreciate that. Thanks for your guys' awesome counter arguments. Effectively, with technical analysis, it can be quite difficult. Again, this is why the best thing to do is look for price variations that also match large standing changes within the market. Avalanche is basically back down to our accumulation price here. We're picking up a bunch between $3 and $10. So to have it back down near 25, obviously, again, people get hurt by this movement. They jump in at Avalanche at like 100 because it's going to 400, which I probably think it will do in the future. And then all of a sudden you're down 77%. The entire purpose of venture capital is to know that most of what we pick are going to lose. But when you get the ones right that are winners, they excel so far beyond the other losers that it's always worth being invested in. There's a bunch of Bear members who have made a few $1 million by simply investing a few thousand and walking away. We've gone over tenets like this, like the best investors are dead, this kind of sentiment. How do you invest and make a lot of money? Well, you just make good investments and then don't do anything else really. And this is always one of the hardest parts, is we get very, very dramatic. Let's say I invested the only $100,000 I had, and I'm down 80 grand basically right now. I only got 20 grand left. I'm thinking, oh, I fucked up. I should have just waited. And again, one of the reasons why we constantly suggest this kind of consistent market month over month behavior is so that you just don't go and shoot your load all at once, totally ignoring the sentiment of time, which is one of the most important functions within this ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of room for upside. Ethereum is great technology, but there's almost always going to be unique communities that find ways to build. And I don't know where that's going to take us into the future. I still think Avalanche has a large amount of potential behind it. Solana also, very similarly, all the way back down to that May accumulation range. So this was the secondary market accumulation, and we are all the way back down here. That's just fantastic to see. But again, if you were late to the market, let's say you bought Solana at $250 and you're down 83%, which feels like absolute garbage if you've ever done it. The best way to do it is to just, again, find conviction through time, keep making investments. You end up with an average down price that's maybe closer to here. And as time allows, you end up with an average price closer to here. You cannot discount the importance of a consistent strategy through the time. I repeat this so often. This was a really beautiful accumulation pattern we had back here. We're not seeing that yet. Clearly, we're seeing we're distribution. I got this one wrong. I thought that this could potentially be a reaccumulation after decline. Again, you're not always going to get them right. Whereas here, when we were super bullish, we did get right. Up here, we're not as excited. The risk to reward relationship of pretty much this whole market has been skewed if you didn't enter back in 2020. The whole risk to reward relationship is basically non-existent, except for when you get it right. So I wanted to take a look at a few others here just to show the whole market is down around 80 to 90% already. FTM already back to its kind of 2021 lows, which represents an 89% discount. Here's the FTT token, which is one of the tradable tokens on the FTX exchange from peak high to where we are today, down 67%. Wu token, which is a highly liquid decentralized exchange that they're working on, down 91%. Mercurial, which is one of the investments we had made earlier on for the Solana exchange, is just getting absolutely hammered. And again, this is why making investments over time is important. Well, first off, being patient. This one's down 95%. That's absolutely destructive. But again, when we use our comparative analysis here, especially when you get it right, let's go back to, we'll use Amazon as an example because it was the most previous one, the closest one within this conversation that we were using. Back in 2001, when Amazon had fallen 90% off of its highs here, you'd be pretty devastated. But just a few short years later, you would have been extraordinarily fucking happy with any of the prices that you got between $5 and $20 because they were great places to accumulate. And this is what's difficult. If you're down at an 80 to 90% loss on the entire sector almost, which is approximately where we are. Like let's take a look. Let's look at Aave. Let's keep scrolling through here. Yeah, okay. So here's Aave. From its peak to where we are today, down approximately 85%. This is like as good as it gets, effectively, in terms of it. Well, Luna showed us actually that it can go that low. Like Luna's the only time I've seen that aside from BitConnect. We're like, wow, this shit really, really can go low. So keep that in mind. There are some times when it can go really low. Here's Wi-Fi, basically back to its 2020 starting position, 90% retracement value on Wi-Fi. Uniswap as well, 90%, and Uniswap here I'd drawn up what I think is probably a falling wedge. I think that there's a few places you're going to see that. So across the board, Polis, I made such a big mistake here, guys. I keep wanting to highlight this one. If you're early in a company's launch, anytime, don't even use technical analysis. It's basically fucking useless. There's far too much to concern yourself with about distribution and when individuals are getting that distribution. This is one of the arguments that people make around Avalanche. Now, Avalanche has a set supply of 720 million. They're burning that supply, and the majority of it is already locked up in the proof of stake method. But there are a bunch of VCs, early funders, single individuals, and angel investors who've helped fund Avalanche. Was around 30 cents, and 50 cents was the private. But then it went public at $1. So there's a huge amount of buying and selling that was taking place here, like even way back here. So Avalanche went public at around $1 way back here. There's not enough data on this chart because it's from Binance, but here's this first kind of trading range we were following throughout 2020. Stayed around $1, so it went from 30 cents to $4, shot up to $12, all the way to 60, then back down to 10, all the way up to 120, and now all the way back down to 25. And the most likely reason because of this is in early days, you have a lot of liquid market supply that is still being released over the next maybe 24 months more. I think it was a 36-month lockup period, depending on who it was. So every month, these investors are getting distributed certain amounts of tokens. Now, I think a lot of people have made the mistake of confusing VCs getting their distribution as an inflation in the currency supply when it's actually capped solidly at 720 million. So I think there's a bunch of people that have made a mistake on that one. Maybe I'll get Emin back on the show to check, but ultimately, one of the reasons why we are most excited about the things that are the most volatile, like an Avalanche or let's say an FTM or Solana or even Ethereum, I guess to some degree, is the fact that there's so much potential room for upside. Go back all the way here. If you guys want to, go back and look at our show between May 2020 when we were following this beautiful accumulation range. This was one of the sexiest moments in trading history, I think was right here. So this is the Ethereum trading range that we were following. I want to highlight this, the importance and the value that the Wyckoff method can bring to the table when you have a multi-year accumulation market taking place is so fucking awesome because it's very reliable. But again, as we get up higher, as we get into the second aspect of what I believe to be a reaccumulation market, it becomes a lot harder to have that risk to reward layout. So here we were all the way back in August. We were so excited. I remember about this. We were taking 10x longs. Shit was fucking amazing. And here we blew up. I thought we could go to $8,000. There's a bunch of me saying that all the way back down here in September of 2020. And we've come collapsing down quite hard. Now, there's a lot going on for the ETH merge, etc. I think, again, ETH is definitely a valuable product. I'm more interested in Avalanche still. I don't know why. You're not going to always get them right. It's just something about intuition there. Maybe even not even for the better. And our previous regression line would bring us all the way down to like $1,000 Ethereum pretty easily. And just, I guess, for recollection's sake, for those of you who were not here in 2017 and didn't go through this, we went from $1,500 Ethereum down to $80 Ethereum, which was basically a 90% retracement again. So the fact that we're seeing 90% retracements across the board says, hey guys, we can't actually go that much motherfucking lower, especially because you see this across the board. Here is SRM, Serum, down 90%. GRT, from all high, down 92%. So I feel pretty confident that we're basically at the bottom. I don't think there's much more room to go lower. And if I'm right by the thesis I've been praising here for the last few, let's see here, since we broke that down around 200 days, because I thought that there was a potential that if we stayed above the bar here and closed up that we were going to take off even higher. But as soon as we closed and we broke this, sorry, my shitty trend line drawing. I'm actually just going to pull a line here. But as soon as we broke this trend line and couldn't get back above, I felt it was kind of obvious that we were going to get a little bit of a longer accumulation channel than I'd originally hoped for. But I stand by this. I think that this was the Bitcoin bottom, effectively 0.28 of the 3 peaks in a domed house. So the fact that we're seeing like 95% retracements on a lot of really valuable and interesting assets. Let's take a look at One Harmony. This was another one of our early investments alongside Matic and Fetch, down 88%. Let's take a look at Matic from, it's not most people will know it as Polygon, but when we first started making investments, it's called Matic, down 80%. This is fucking awesome. This is basically exactly what you're looking for. I bet Near is probably going to come a little bit lower. I would put Near back at around $2. And for those of you that are interested, you'll probably be able to see that this is likely a 3-peak and a domed house type thesis. Very, very similar drop. So at this point, I suspect Near will go back down. There is a reason to believe that what you see is something like this, which is called a Livermore widening megaphone pattern. But for the time being, I actually think that this is going to be a 3 peaks in a domed house. So I think we get a little bit more downside for Near most likely. Either way, you're down what? Any of these investments you might want to make, down 70%. Let's take a look at Axie, as we're huge fans of the gaming industry. Axie's basically back down to its 2021 liftoff period. Let's see here, down to 87%. So the fact that we have so many, assets are in an 80 to 90% retracement is also, I think, a very strong indicator that's pretty close to the bottom. And for Bitcoin, I believe we are in fact at that bottom. Okay, so if you guys have not yet, remember to subscribe over there to the channel down below. Give us a thumbs up if you like this content. We're going to be doing a bunch more live streams, and I've got some kind of mixed content again coming up. Just chilling out, so I think I might do a few more vlogs, etc. too. But for now, let's do a few questions. Can you take a look at Algorand, or any opinion as to why not? I like Algorand. The tech, from what our tech friends have shared, is pretty spectacular. So let's, just for fun, open up Algo. Oh, there's a, yeah, wow, look at that, hey. Okay, so here's Algorand. We are basically back again to previous 2020. Like, okay, here I'm gonna point these out to you with my little red arrow. This, where the arrow is pointing, this was the absolute bottom of the market in 2020. And over here where we're at today, it is not that far apart from each other. So most of this has been retraced. We're effectively up 200% from the bottom in 2020, which is spectacular. We're quite low for a lot of these. Now, again, Algorand has some great tech from what I understand. I'm not a big investor in Algo, so I'm not going to give you anything further than that. But when you have these huge retracements, which represent 85%, that return us basically to the peak of the pandemic, when people were scared shitless and buying toilet paper for no fucking reason, you got to assume we're probably pretty close to the bottom. Now, again, I will for the last time make the argument that someone's trying to fuck with us, and they're trying to screw over food and energy distribution on purpose. It looks, people would want to call it a conspiracy. I don't know if you want to call it a conspiracy, but someone's fucking doing it. Someone be lighting shit on fire. Someone be screwing around with fertilizer. Someone's clearly, like, how, I still don't understand this. Like, hey guys, let's fucking tell Russia that they can't invade Ukraine, because the United States is somehow this fucking god leader of shit that's right, when they clearly have invaded a bunch of other countries through which would be crimes against humanity. I mean, the fact that Julian Assange helped relay videos of the United States military shooting fucking journalists in the back, like, oh no, let's let the United States of America save us. These fucks clearly know what's going on. No, there's something wrong. There's something clearly wrong in our society. So I would be very cautious with the next few years in terms of what happens. And again, one of the reasons why we're so strong on Bitcoin is because we believe that sovereignty of money, sovereignty of identity, and sovereignty of the ownership of any asset that you might want to carry with you is probably one of the most important things in our lifetime. So I'm a strong proponent of freedom for that particular standpoint. These governments are just shitheads. They're lying cunts. That's probably the most I've sworn in a video. I'm very upset with what they've decided to do over the last 2 years. So I'll have to apologize for the foul language to any of the children under 18 that might be listening. You'll learn soon enough that the governments are really only there to fuck you anyways. So maybe it's a good lesson to learn as early as possible. Yeah, if America does it, it's freedom. But when anyone else does it, it's a war crime. Yeah, this is pretty noticeable. I think it's pretty disruptive too, to go, hey, we're going to sanction Russia for all this shit. Totally undermining the fact that if you do any cursory research, you'll realize that Russia is like the breadbasket of the world for fertilizer, a bunch of stuff. I think neon, I think they're the largest producer of neon, which is hugely important for making microprocessors. So now we're going to be at a shortage for literally fucking everything. Food, energy, microprocessors, and it's done on purpose. You know, what we need to stop war is more collaboration, not fucking bombs and guns. And the sooner people would realize that, the better off we would be. What we needed to do was learn how to figure out how to collaborate when you've got two big warring powers that go, you know what? We're not happy with you guys setting up interballistic missiles on our fucking border, so we're gonna try to invade that place. I see real aspects to both of that argument. I actually, for one point, was kind of made a joke. It's like, oh, I'm rooting for Putin because every time the mainstream media tells me not to like something, it's like they've almost always been fucking wrong. It makes me want to root for Putin because these are the people that I don't like. These are the people who've always been telling us the shit. Anyways, gone on a little bit of a tangent there. I mean, I feel bad for anybody who gets caught up in any war between two governments who have basically no care for the people at the bottom of that rung. So I'm not indicating that I think what Russia is doing is right. I just think we should probably be a bit more open-minded about how we would solve these diplomatic problems through collaboration instead of provocation. And when you cut off countries' abilities to send oil or food, who does it affect? It doesn't affect Nancy Pelosi and her drunk-ass fucking put-calling husband. No, doesn't affect them at all. It affects the poorest people. And when they get upset, that's when revolutions start. Anyways, that's probably enough of a tangent today. Thank you guys all for joining us too, the Arcane Bear. I'm so grateful for you guys still showing up and appreciating my long-winded rants about the useless nature of these overarching diabolical governments. So I love you guys. Thanks for that. It was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I will take a few minutes just to take a look at the comment section just to see how I did there with my rant. I see it's so true. I'm late. I missed it. I only invest in the projects governments intend to use. Yeah, governments are not a great judgment bias. They're so slow for most of these things. Okay, Russia and Ukraine are like 20% of the world's calories. Yeah, they're a huge portion of food. Yep. Might makes right. Yeah, that seems to be the truth here. If you're the strongest bully in the park is now he's wearing a lab coat, so we should all listen. Let's see. Chemistry Bro says, "Damn, this is refreshing. All the big crypto YouTubers and American. This is awesome to hear." Thanks. I'm not an American, although I have for a long time regarded the Constitution and really anyone's Constitution, the idea that individuals should have civil liberty to connect, to say whatever bullshit they want. If you want to talk about the earth being flat, you go right ahead. I don't give a shit. It doesn't change my life. I don't care what you think. You should be able to spout that nonsense, and that makes for a better conversation anyways at the end of the day. Zubarev says the intention of war is really to hasten the demise of the U.S. dollar. Yeah, something seems fishy. Something here is fishy. You know, you don't want to fall into the idea of like conspiracies, but every day we go forward, it's getting harder and harder to ignore these curses are clearly collaborating together on like global communism. Nyan Scooby says you earned a subscriber with that rant. Thank you. I appreciate that. Put on the red lights. This one was a vlog, not a TA. Awesome. Let's see. I enjoy your streams. Keep it coming. Thank you guys. Would a sub $10,000 Bitcoin worry you in some way or just make you absolutely ecstatic? I don't think we'll ever see a $10,000 Bitcoin. That would be fucking amazing. But I would be... What you want? I'll sell. I'll tell you what, just to give an example, I've never had any debt in my life, but maybe that's the first time I'd go out of my way to take out some extra debt. No, but I don't had, that's the only way I could express, I guess, my excitement, but, give us the red light. Well, family, I don't know where my, hold on. This is a red light. How you doing? I tried my best. It wouldn't let me change it. I tried, though. I'll make sure it's back next time. Peace by Force, yeah. Pax Romana. Love your streams. Great content. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Chemistry Bro again says, hold on. I know you aren't American, but the rest of them are, so they don't talk about American hypocrisies, so it's nice to hear it for once. Yeah, sometimes it takes standing outside of the box to get a clearer picture. And again, there are no one's winning this war, technically, right? None of us are winning whatever war is going on right now. Again, the American Republic, because that's what it is, was built a lot of great founding ideas. Like, you could say whatever the fuck you want and keep a gun on you just in case anyone tries to stop you from saying that stupid shit. Felt fair. It was a great start. Build off freedom. Okay, let's see here. You might have riled the flat earth army. Yeah, I'm going to get a bunch of comments trying to tell me that the fucking world is flat. If the world is flat, there's no way things like Vega as the pole star and Antares being the pole star like 10,000. It's not functioning. We can measure Vega moving, guys. Like, come on, this doesn't take a genius. Like, but sure. Anyways, we'll go outside. We'll try to leave that one alone. At what price would you consider Bitcoin to be in trouble long term? Oh no, I would never consider Bitcoin to be in trouble long term. This is basically the third full market cycle from Bitcoin at around $90 to $1,000, back down to $200, up to $20,000, back down to $3,000. In 2017, 2018, when we came back down from 20 grand, I was worried. There were very few things that were surviving. Ethereum came back to $80 fucking dollars, and the first time I bought it was 30. It was ridiculous. So that change hardened me to understand that value accrual over time is hard to measure, and that the volatility is the thing that is designed to get rid of the average person, and that most people get caught up in that, within the volatility, and also where the market where they don't make any money. So there's nothing that would push me into thinking Bitcoin's price was in trouble long term, unless we saw some type of new astounding technology. But even then, the fact that Bitcoin has been adopted organically over the last decade years. I was going to say decade years. I don't know what the fuck that is. For the last decade, Bitcoin has been organically adopted. That is so powerful. Any type of organic adoption is one of the most valuable forms and functions because it wasn't led by a marketing team. I remember the first time I picked up a Bitcoin card, I was like, and I really started to understand, hey, sovereign money. You don't need a government to get in the way of, if you and I want to make a transaction, regardless of who or where you are in the planet, we can do that. The full effect of that has still not been felt by the world today, and its consequences are still not fully understood. But as they become more recognized, Bitcoin, in my opinion, and more and more as we go forward through this, will become basically the reserve money of the world. And then there'll be 1,000 shitcoin currencies, because who gives a fuck? A currency can be whatever you have liquidity. If you want to create your own currency and then put Bitcoin on the other side of the trade, works. It's cheaper than any other fucking system we got. I'm swearing a lot today. I think the government rant upset me, so I apologize there. I've been deeply and profoundly disturbed by the lies from people in lab coats over the last few years. Or hold on, in any political conversation, science has basically turned into a religion. And science is one of my favorite conversations. And we've basically been not allowed to have it at all. So I'm profoundly fucking angry. Chemistry Bro says, oh, nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the pounds, bro. Nice. Play an instrument, please. Okay, I'll end today's episode with an instrument. Well, the biggest guys I know aren't Americans either. Americans criticize Americans more than anybody. Maybe, yeah. Keep the rants coming. I love it. Are you playing the Thetan Arena? Oh, I'm not, but I've been getting more into the play to earn games. So we've got a few more coming here for you guys. Are you feeling extra bullish for ETH this year with the merge? Extra bullish. It's hard to say. I'm not much of a tech guy. I'm going to sit down again here soon and do a little bit more tech deep dive to understand what I think. Because what crypto Twitter thinks is one thing, and then what the real thing is often much different. But again, never underestimate the value of a meme. That's been the clear. Doge was like the clear example of do not underestimate the power of people agreeing on something, even if it's not right. Nyan Sooner says gas is almost $5 per gallon. That's insane. Yeah, these are directed attacks, I believe, on the lowest and most impoverished. We are not going to see a $20,000 Bitcoin. Remember this post. I think we hit the bottom already. I'll agree with you, this Mr. Chester. PL Hunt is a flat earther. He calls me a spinning ball boy. Sadly, PL, yes, I've done what sounds to be a significant amount more of scientific research than you have, and I probably have a lot more friends in the scientific field than you do. Like a lot of our conversations in the early days of this podcast were all with PhDs in physics and biology or astrophysics and shit. I love those conversations. And there are a few things that I can go out and look at the stars and see happening every night that disproves a flat earth. So sucks to be you. Nice. Composite man, but I mean, go ahead. If you think the world is flat, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to try to change your sentiment. Whatever you want, you can have a spaghetti monster for your god for all I care. I'm happy. You can do whatever you want. Call yourself a pediatrician. I guess I was trying to make fun of self-identifying there. I'm not sure if that came across properly. Let's see here. A few more thoughts, and then we'll sign off for today. That's because it's kind of fun. Moonshine Fuels has practical value compared to XRP. Do you know what double spending is? If not, you should probably study it. Right. So XRP, I'm not a fan of. But again, don't think that what I think is paramount. Like, if you have an intuition and you want to make an investment, you should fucking follow your own intuition, because that's always going to treat you best. Because that way, when you're wrong, you can be like, hey, I fucked up. And that way, if you're right, you can go, hey, I was right. Congratulations. Let's see. Hazmat says governments lie, but you go geek this. Oh, please, spheroid fool by sign. Yeah, PhD is not regurgitation. It really depends. Like, for instance, Thomas Campbell, who's a practical physicist. If you're running things practically, there's no regurgitation. You have to fucking set up experiments and build shit. It's totally different. I really don't think some people know what science is. I actually believe that this is how things have gotten so bad, is we have a horribly fucking undereducated scientific community, and they are being lied to often. So I would agree with this sentiment, and they should quite often actually distrust what science is telling them, because more and more often science is really only who's paying the most for the answer. That's very clear. Chemistry Bro says, I'm almost done with my PhD in chemistry. Yeah, you've got theoretical and practical. I think it's theoretical and practical are the differences between the types of PhDs. Like, how is your dissertation written? Is it written through experimentation, or is it written through equation, effectively? So there are different forms and functions of kind of a lesson. I dropped out of school in grade 10, so what the hell do I know about taking a PhD? Gas is $9 in Vancouver. Wow, that's incredible. Although it is $9 Canadian, so it's like $6 American, $5 American. Okay, more land. No. Crypto gaming is next in line. We are so bullish on crypto gaming. I think it's going to finally bring the adoption we are looking for, so I'm super stoked about that. I was responding to Symmetry Arcane Bear. Wait, hold on. Did I get something wrong? Moonshine Fuel, let me reread this. I'm not sure. If I got something wrong there, maybe I glued two sentences together, because I apologize if I just did that. Nikola Tesla, I think he says Nicole Tesla. Earth is a realm or a plane. No, he's saying it's okay. A lot of people. Geometry is one of my favorite studies too, so I'm just going to skip over that. Let's hear the guitar. What do you think of the theory that Janet Yellen is to Nakamoto? Who scientists don't go against China? No, wow, that's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get banned off YouTube here for just having a conversation. Watching the charts and learning the cycles is equivalent to learning the tides, and each token is different. Break that relies on the movement of the earth, tilt, planes, fruits, and Bitcoin. You guys are awesome. I love reading the chats. I'm going to do this more often where I just like roll through and check out your guys' chat because it's always fun. Is Nikola Tesla? No, you said you wrote Nicole Tesla earlier, so that was funny. I was imagining like Nikola's sister or something. Charles Hoskins has no education but is highly regarded. I have no idea. Lores Punt says, follow this man. He will interview me soon when we launch your NFT. Maybe. If you have a great game, go ahead. You can email it to daniel@arcanebear.com. We do advise and help companies do fundraising, but it's got to be top notch. So if you think you got a top notch, actually, Lorenz, we have chatted before. I recognize this name. You called me early on. I remember actually. You called me early on. We'll have that conversation, sure. About the Axie guilds. I thought it was astounding. That was when we first started getting really excited about the play to earn sector. We're like, holy shit, this is amazing. People are working in the middle of a crisis playing a video game. That's our jam right there. Okay, just a few more of these and then we're gonna dive off. Free Diz says, I just got off work. Obviously I'm not a good trader yet as I still work. Don't trade. You're better off to do what you love to do, earn revenue doing that, and then invest consistently as a strategy to make long-term portfolio wealth than trying to reallocate your time, focus, and function to become a trader. It's for 99% of the people, it's not worth it. Anyone telling you to like use leverage and trading are basically not scammers, but I would have assumed the level of conscience there is low, because truth is 95% of the people who play with leverage are going to get totally wiped out and then have no investment at the end of the day. And all they had to do was just keep fucking buying. Why convolute the story for people who want to make a bunch of money? But whatever. Okay. Chemistry Bro says, my PhD has been 99% practical lab work and analysis of chemicals, almost zero regurgitation. Yeah, practical work is fun. Postmodern academics and intellectuals are a part of the deterioration in education. The dogmatization of science, saying that, hey, that's what this literature says, it's right. It's like, no, that's not. Could find you many other conflicting articles in different scientific journals. Anyways, whatever. So we're getting a little bit off topic. In early of March 2020, I'm like, okay, we'll just never talk about science again, basically, because we're going to get kicked off YouTube. This is the first time we've really done it since 2020, too. This is the most I've talked about the white lab coats. Actually, it's almost okay. Last few thoughts and questions here. You guys go. Yes. Awesome. Great comments. Thank you guys all for the support. I appreciate it a lot. It's been a lot of fun to chat and rant with you guys here at the end of today's show. So if you're still watching this and it's not live, I appreciate you so much, because this is a lot of me shit talking. If you think the earth is flat, you probably think the fiat system is great. Maybe. I'm not sure. We should take a vote. Have you ever looked at the S&P 500 adjusted against M3 supplies? It shows we never really recovered from 2000. It's almost the entire growth of the market appears to come only from inflation. That's it. So if I had to make an argument for why maybe inflation was a good thing, let's just, for the other side, let's try to straw man why inflation might be a good thing. We rewind to the early 1900s and we're fucking making stuff that runs on combustible fuels, and we're trying to think, how do we speed up and expedite the process of our evolution? Let's just create this kind of synthetic monetary supply that we can manipulate through these different graphs and controls, and use that inflation of the monetary supply to try to give it to the people that are going to be the most productive with how we survive the next 1,000 years. That's actually a great idea. Giving capital to those who are going to change the future through their creations and generations of new ideas. Actually, not. I would vote for that. The problem is inflation today is we have just like this blanket spread shotgun of whatever fucking loser nonsense happens to be in the Federal Reserve's friend list. They're like, oh, hey, you were a bank that was going to fail in 2008, we're going to bail you out, okay? Because you didn't fucking suck at all your business enough to get bankrupt in the first place. It wasn't your fault that you did all the stupid shit. So we're just going to buy you out. Now, what we should have been doing was giving more money to productive companies if we were going to inflate the monetary supply at all. Right? Instead, we gave it to unproductive fucking leeches. Anyways, science does not equal proof of work today. It used to be that way. But from what I can tell, the scientific literature has been vastly corrupted by huge elbows of monetary weight, probably from the military-industrial complex. So there's that. Finish with the guitar. Okay, I will. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, well, I'll grab the guitar. We'll end off that. I was actually playing a little bit today. It's gonna be a little awkward though, because I gotta stand here and like hold the guitar. I don't know if any of you actually play guitar, but if you stand and like hold the guitar, you gotta like balance on one leg. So I'm standing on one leg right now. You can't tell. If I could show you below, standing on one leg to hold the guitar up, right? So no hands, like it's on my knee. Anyways, just so you know. So okay, let's move this microphone down here, and then am I still in tune? Ooh. Oh, there. I think it's okay. It's okay now. Not so bad. Okay, thank you. This is Tio and the Arcane Bear. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and a treat to be able to hang out with you guys and chat and shoot the shit and say whatever is on my mind. I'm glad we still have some relevant free speech here going on. I appreciate you all, and